Come around, little fungi kids. I will tell you a story of how I defeated Ramgus the Small. Despite his name, he was in fact very large. See, his people are normally much, much bigger. They are bigger than all of us. I had just become an adult. I was finally 12. My older siblings taunted me, and my younger siblings seemed jealous. The adults in the village seemed to treat me the same as the day before, but they told me I was now an adult. I did not feel like an adult, though. I measured my mushroom cap. Oh, how embarrassed I was. I had found it was a millimeter longer than the day before. Hardly what I'd expect. Nothing compared to the adults' mushroom caps. Obviously, my mushroom cap was too small. At least it was to me. Not even good enough to provide my body with shade in the burning heat of the sun. Later that day, my mother had taken me to the next village over for a whole 2 days. She then had the clothing master make me a good pair of clothes for my birthday. When we had returned home, we were so horrified to find our village destroyed and smoldering. "What happened?" my mother yelled. My mother wept as she saw the farm fields destroyed. She cried out, "What will we eat this winter?" The Grand Elder slowly walked towards us. In a grim voice, he told us the birdkin named Ramgus had attacked our village. He said it was just a young birdkin that attacked, probably without the other birdkin knowing. My mother asked, how could he do so much damage? The elder said he came with a magic gem in his forehead that prevented arrows from hitting him. But if you were close enough, a sword would strike true. Everyone knew fighting birdkin was safest from a distance. I could tell the elder was nervous as he said, "All the healthy adults have been gravely injured or have gone. There is no one left strong or healthy enough to stop Ramgus." The elder's eyes looked down at the ground. "Ramgus said he's coming back for the rest of us." I knew I did not feel like an adult, but I let people call me an adult all day. It was time I proved it to myself and to the others that I truly was an adult. I stepped forward with a tremor in my voice. "Elder, I am an adult now." The elder started to speak over me, but I spoke over him. "I will stop Ramgus." At first, my mom objected, but she realized what was at stake. None of us could outrun a birdkin. We could only hide, and we had no time to hide. With our farms destroyed, we needed to rush for winter. That night the elder had given me a map and shown me where Ramgus was nesting out. The woodmaster, he gave me 2 torches, and my mother gave me food wrapped in a sheet. The sheet could probably be used to cover me from the rain if it started raining. My older brother, who had lost his arm to Ramgus, smiled at me and said, "What a big adult you are. Father would be so proud." I could see the pain in his face. My brother was only a couple years older than me when father passed away in the Great Birdkin War. But sadly I could not remember much of my father, as I was too little. With his good arm, my brother passed me a shield. It was father's, and it's supposed to be mine now, but as I only have one good arm, it's better for you. I felt so honored by this action. We hugged for a long time, and although he had only one arm, I felt his body cover me completely and give me strength. I tried to sleep that night, but it was hard. Too many thoughts. They all rushed through my mind. At some point, though, I did pass away into the darkness of my sleep. Just before I woke up, I had a dream. I was swallowed whole by a terrible huge bird, and awoke in a great sweat. The elder entered my bedroom unannounced. I was shaken from my dream and embarrassed to be in only my underwear when he walked in. That guy had no concept of privacy. He sat at the edge of my bed, holding a purple sword as long as my leg. He laid it down on the bed beside me and said, "This is the village's most prized artifact." He smiled at me as I lay in bed. "It's called purple haze." His eyes wandered around, looking into my eyes as if to try to read my thoughts. He looked me over like he was sizing me up for the task, and then back to the sword. I could tell the elder thought he was never going to see me again, and it started to bring doubt into my heart and make me question everything. What was I thinking? How would I even stop a birdkin? I have never even seen one before, nor have I ever traveled alone by myself, or for a matter of fact fought before. The elder looked back at me, and it was almost like he knew what I was thinking. He smiled, and then spoke loudly and clearly. "With purple haze at your side, there is nothing you can't do, as long as you have the courage to try." He stood up and started walking to the door. As I sat there in silence, he stopped at the doorway, still looking away from me, and said, "It's not actually your age that determines if you're an adult, but your actions, and you must remember that, because yesterday you proved to us all you are an adult now." After getting dressed, I stumbled out of my room and up the mud block stairs. I took a loaf of bread, kissed my mom, and waved my family and friends off as I jumped on my worm ride and rode off towards the bird. It was very hot. I could feel the heat beaming on top of my cap as I rode on the worm. I was glad I had a worm to ride on, and I wondered if he had a name. The worm probably had no name, as my mom often said. Animals are to be used or feared, and you don't name either. After some time traveling, I pulled over by some mud and some tall strands of grass that provided shade. I watched the large worm, double my length, as thick as my waist, pivot around, looking for what seemed to be like random bits of darker dirt. A large shadow passed over the sun, letting down a shadow over me as it passed over the land. I looked up to see what could only be Ramgus, with his wings spread wide, flying in the sky. He had to be easily 20 times my size. His body was blue, but his head and wings were bright red. I saw him sit down in the distance. I shoved food in my mouth and climbed on the worm. As I rode, I saw black clouds rolling in from the far east. I welcomed the clouds as the hot beaming sun was hidden behind them. I could see a large tree in the distance, and to my surprise, Ramgus was nested on a large branch stuck out by itself, just in the open for all to see. Did Ramgus fear nothing? He seemed to be asleep. I approached the bottom of the tree and dismounted. It was dark under the tree. I lit both my torches and left one so I could see where I came from, and put the other in my mouth. It tasted all right, surprisingly. Maybe I should eat it, I laughed in my head. Then I started climbing the tree. The bark made it an easy climb, providing big curves for me to place my hands and feet. I felt the sword blade cut my belt a little. I worried I should have thrown it over my back. The shield also provided difficulty to climb with, but nothing I couldn't deal with. As I neared the top of the tree, I could hear the rainwater falling from the sky. The tree mostly prevented the rain from getting to me, but the wind would stray some in now and again. I did it! I made it onto the branch, and could see Ramgus while he slept. A green energy field covered around him. I had not noticed it from far away. It seemed to be coming from a gem on his head, right between his eyes. I looked at him, and how peaceful and beautiful he looked. Then I remembered what he did to me and my village, and why I had come here. Yet I had a moral dilemma about attacking a sleeping creature. I decided I would strike his wing. There would be nowhere for him to fly, and then I could talk to him and ask why he attacked my village. I placed the torch in the side of the tree, and I snuck over to him, one small footprint at a time. As I got closer to him, I could smell him. He smelled of sweet bellowberries. I could hear him snore like a quietly wheezing piglet. I drew Purple Haze out, ready to strike. As I struck the wing, my eyes were wrongfully focused on Ramgus's face, and I foolishly thought my plan was great, until Ramgus's wing extended in response to the pain from my sword. I was hurled into the air. With the screech Ramgus cried, off the tree and into the rain. I fell. I was scared, but as I fell, I saw that Ramgus, in the pain and confusion, had lost his balance and fell from the tree as well. As my body hurled faster to the ground, I saw Ramgus use his good wing to help him from crashing, but it was clear he wasn't going to be flying for a while. I was scared, but as I fell, I saw that Ramgus, in the pain and confusion, had lost his balance and fell from the tree as well. My body hurled fast to the ground. I saw Ramgus use his good wing to help him from crashing, but it was clear he wasn't going to be flying for a while. So that was that. Then I closed my eyes in failure. I could feel the tickles of grass moments before. I felt a cold and wet nothingness. As I awoke with my mouth full of water, I opened my eyes and saw water all around me. I tried swimming up to the top, but the top was covered by a mud wall. I was in some kind of cave system. I was panicking, unsure or why I was here, and then I realized light was coming from below me. Wait, I thought to myself, am I swimming downward? So I turned around and swam up. Shortly after, my head emerged from the water. I was embarrassed with myself. As I choked on the air now going into me, I realized the water was only barely deep enough to go over my head. I swam towards land, and only steps after was a large mushroom. The huge raindrops would hit me like a mountain troll throwing rocks at you. My body was so sore I shook, but I realized I was alive, and that was a good thing. The mushroom provided me with shelter from the cold rain. I could hear the smashing of water against the mushroom cap, and slapping in the little lake that was forming. I noticed something purple under the mud. I dug it up. I was happy to see Purple Haze had not fallen far from me. I proudly picked it up. I heard the sound of something coming over a tiny hill on the other side of the waterway. As I looked up at it, I knew what it was before I saw it. It was Ramgus. He squawked at me. "You have come after me to seek revenge, little toadstool?" For some reason, I felt big and strong despite being outmatched. I spat back at him as I raised Purple Haze. "I do not bring revenge, I bring justice!" In a powerful leap, Ramgus came down the hill towards me. I screamed my mightiest roar, "Ha ha!" My voice cracked, so it was a little pathetic, but I did not care. I felt powerful. I jumped towards Ramgus to plunge my sword deep into his head, where the gem lay. I realized I wasn't going to be high enough to reach, and my body started to descend. But then I felt something underneath my feet. I had no time to care what was under me, but I pushed off of it. Ramgus grabbed me in his mouth, but I wailed Purple Haze into his head, sending the gem flying from his skull. At first, the pressure of his beak felt like it was going to crush me alive. But then he just let go, and we fell into the water together. I managed to fall in such a way Ramgus did not land on me. I saw my worm friend wiggling around as if happy to see me. I was shocked and surprised, wondering where he came from. But then I saw the hole in the ground near where I had jumped. He was that what was under me. He must have launched from the ground. I stood up, ready to strike Ramgus again, but his eyes opened, and I could see pain and sadness. He pleaded, "Please spare me, little toadstool. You have already taken my wing. It will likely never be the same again. Spare me, and I promise to leave you and your village alone." I was so angry that he would think I would spare him. But then sad feelings flooded my mind, and I stood there in the rain thinking. The final drop of rain landed beside me, splashing water onto me. Angrily I yelled, "I am not a little toadstool, and you are right. You will never bother us again, or anyone else, or I will come back." I grabbed his magic green gemstone, got on the worm, and rode away. I saw Ramgus's eyes close, and I wondered, was he asleep or something else? The worm carried me back to the village, and as soon as I got back I was greeted with cheers. But as I stood from the worm, I passed out from my exhaustion. I woke up the next day, warm and dry in bed. I thought it was weird that the village cheered me on when I got home. How did they know I succeeded? There was a large sweet bellowberry twice the size of my fist, sitting on a tray beside my bed. I picked it up and started biting into it, like a starving wolf in the middle of winter bites into its long-hunted prey. All of a sudden, my mum, brother, other siblings, and elder burst into the room, forcing themselves through the doorway. The elder stepped through and asked me, "The village owes you a great debt. How can we repay you?" I blurted out, A lock for my door." Everyone laughed. Later it was explained to me that Ramgus was acting in rebellion from the bird folk, as he had just turned of an adult age in their culture, and wanted to prove himself. The birds were not angry with me for taking his wing, but were grateful I spared him. They allowed the village to keep the gem I had taken, and provided us with a year's supply of bellowberry, a few worms and honey beetles, and some minor herbs. Despite losing more in the attack than we received from the bird folk, the village elder told them how blessed we were to have their friendship, and that they gave us more than we needed. For the longest time I wouldn't understand why he wasn't more cross with them. "Ramgus never bothered you again?" Oh, Ramgus the Small came back. But I promise you kids, that's a story for another time.